I would try to focus for first 15 to 17 minutes of the time just to go through and cover some of the future trend. So please go on to the next slide. So yeah, this is the agenda I would like to cover today, starting from the evaluation of identity access management. Then we'll cover, of course, the identity and access management trend, and then we'll conclude on it. So next slide, please. So the current trend is obviously it start with that how we have reached up to that stage. So I would cover into the next slides and take you through that why identity and access management has been a crown jewel of cybersecurity, and there has been a reason based on the feedback we're getting from the organizations and based on some research recently been done by Forresters and the Pulse Security. So if you see the top challenge is still, even after many years in the space of identity access management journey, is still 62% over privileged employee access is a problem for the organization. And even when we look for the what is the top priority these days for identity and access management, 71% of organization is still considering identity and access management as their top priority, following, of course, the data leakage prevention, which is from the data prevention and privacy point of view, is very critical for everyone. But you see that identity and access management is still topping the chart, which is a reason we need to understand that how the technology is going to support to solve some of these challenges and problems. I will take you through a few other facts as well, just to give things in the context. So even at this stage, 83% organization, they do not have a mature identity and access management platform. And, and many of the attacks and the breaches we are seeing, they are still related to some basic security hygiene practice related to the weak credential, and that's been the main reason for the compromises. So I thought like it's just to before we begin the journey and looking into the evaluation of identity and access management, these are the trend I just wanted to highlight. So please, next slide. So this is the evolution of identity and access management, just to see that how identity and access management has been evolved over the years. So what I tried to do here, just to paint a two-dimensional picture, just to see that how technology and the user base evolve. As user base evolve, the technology is also coming up with the new uh, concept of identity and access management, but how it has changed over the period, and then accordingly we'll see that how the trend would lie in future. So we started pretty much in 1970s or so when the computer was introduced and Unix and those platforms came along. But at the time, it was more perimeter based sort of a environment, and the devices were more like standalone devices, and they are typically based on the access control list. When it comes for identity and access management point of view, there was not much to do because the exposure of technology and perimeter was very less. So a normal access management practice was good enough. But as we moved along, and when the internet became a bloom in the 1990s, then the true identity and access management concept materialized, and then we started seeing a lot more technology coming to support this as a concept. At the time, if you look, the user base was also changing. So it was not only limited to the employees, but just to provide a secure and sustainable IT service, a lot more service provider was coming along to support this. And then the concept of federated identity is become more important. Later on, as we go in the journey, then by the 2006 or so, even the SSO concept became quite popular, just to have a better user experience to support identity and access management. And at this time, one part is getting very important here, and I would like to bring your attention here, is that as we reaching towards the 2010, and obviously the introduction of this cloud became one key focus, where the perimeter were started getting demised. So the perimeter which we used to have and the concept of identity access management, making sure that we secure it from the inside out, was slowly demising, and the technology was evolving not around the typical sort of a client server based model you have, but it was more evolving towards the microservice based platform. So this has been another sort of a, I would say, tipping point where the identity and access management slightly start moving from centralized to decentralized way, because of the huge adoption of the cloud platform in 2014 and 15, when the cloud started getting matured a little bit. Then we have seen a trend going into that area where the disruption of central identity started to begin. And then at the time, it was more important to how we can stabilize this by bringing other technology like bring your own identity or the SIAM, and also the, how to cover this challenge of demise of the complete perimeter, or the complete demise of the perimeter, and leveraging all these API services or so. So this is just to, and this time, even the user base is not only limited to the employee partners and also the consumer, but the new introduction of the lot of the devices also going to access your environment, and that's also can become a sort of a security problem if it is not managed properly. So introduction of bots, introduction of the Internet of the Things become a challenge. So the last part I just want to focus here is that's where the future probably going to lies. And the next few slides, I'm going to probably talk more about that area. But I just wanted to show that and to interconnect that how this evolve over the time. So the next, the big shift we are seeing is the is the decentralization of the identity, where we need to start looking more around the digital ledger based technology, more like a blockchain, or having like self souvenir identity. So these concepts we would see in near future would have a lot more focus, and our identity and access management trend would be also coming along to support this new way of managing your identity and access management. Um, I was on early presentation, and and few of the colleague presenter who also raised a very good point when I was just listening to them, and it was very interesting that what is the future is going towards the government's involvement for making this decentralized identity um, as a trust source, where rather than organization need to manage these identity by them as they used to do, but as our user base is expanding, how the government can also probably start supporting. So this is the another area probably it would evolve in future, where using the technology like self-souvenir identity, having the blockchain, and having a trusted infrastructure which is vouched by the government, where the onboarding of the users and consumer is not going to be a responsibility of individual organization. Rather than they would be leveraging more from these trusted body, and then the overall journey for customer management, and also including the user management, would be a lot simpler when we reach up to that point. So next slide, please. So I would like to just dive into briefly into some of these trends I have picked up for our discussion today, or for presentation. So in the next one, please, I've got a couple of slides here. So these 5 areas, I will probably briefly touch base with the constraint of the time we have, but I think it would be pretty much building on what I have said in this evaluation slide earlier. So the flavor of the time in identity and access management, there are a lot buzzword we are hearing, but they are quite related. And I thought like maybe we touch base very briefly. So we got like these 5 items we need to really watch in next few years that how they actually evolve and shape the identity and access management future. So let's go into the next slide, and then we'll pick up one by one. So the zero trust is the area which is we're hearing a lot, and I think this is something, unfortunately, the trust is incorrectly implemented in digital world. It was actually never meant to be. So, so making sure that we follow the principle of not trusting anything but verify everything is the concept. It need to be built up, and all our technology component process and identity and access management practices need to be adjusted accordingly so we can support this model. We have seen based on the recent survey that even the zero trust as a concept uh, brought in by a Forrester researcher, his name is John Kinderbag, in 2010, but it is still not up to the maturity level where we should be in last 10 years time. Only 29% um, organization currently have adopted this as a model, or they have got some projects underway. So there is still a huge gap, um, where many organizations haven't even thought about or haven't got any project to control this particular area or problem statement. So this is something we need to watch in near future, that how this would evolve to support identity and access management paradigm. Next slide, please. So this is just to build up onto the zero trust. So the principle of zero trust is start from nothing. So trust nothing, but verify everything. And that's the core principle, but it is also supported by four other principles. So we can say that you have to always identify, making sure that we have a single source of identity. We make sure that we always re-authenticate. We use technology like multi-factor authentication, so that cover the identification part up to a level where the trust cannot be misused. Moving to the always control is always going to be the principle of least privilege, no matter whether it's a low risk item, but make sure that this get applied. Always analyze is just to ensure that all the identities are based on the context you established by correlation and leveraging the technology like SIEM or so. So your identity source is not based on just the static parameters, rather than it's based on the dynamic contextual information to support your identity use cases. And of course, we have to always secure it with the keeping the protection of the data lifecycle throughout. So this is the zero trust is an area we need to wait and watch that how it change in near future time, and how the existing technology can be benefit from this trust, this zero trust as a model, and how they would adopt into the practice. Next slide, please. So the behavior biometrics is the next topic. Is again, as we have seen, that the market of behavior biometrics is expected to go 462 billion pound by 2027, with the annual growth rate of 25%, which is huge. And even we see that biometrics has been a technology which has supported identity and access management deployment, and with the use of mobile phones and the and adoption of this technology and the ease, static biometric has been a very big hit, and we are seeing that many organization is adopting this as a main mechanism to achieve a strong authentication. But there are some fundamental problem with the static or traditional biometric identity, or physical biometric identity, is that if it is lost or stolen, then the trust of use that is also lost, because you can't really replicate you can't really change your biometric identity. You can change your behavior, but you can't change your biometric identity. And that's where the behavior biometrics comes in play. It is based on not just the physical aspect of it, but also it utilizes the other attributes uh, based on the user's behavior, using things like that, how do they use the keyboard, how they use the mouse, how they hold phone or devices it is going to be used to define their biometric authentication. And that's, I think, going to be another key area for adoption of that identity and access management technology, and also to cover some of the future challenges or concern where the password has been a really problem for a long time, and every organization want to move away from the password. So this is the technology would probably enable passwordless identity and access management implementation. Another good thing about behavior biometric is it's not going to rely only on on um, on the static information. It would be keep on checking and updating its risk profile to ensure that it cannot be misused. And obviously, it would leveraging the attributes based authentication rather than relying on some static information which can get obsolete, or once it is lost, then we do not have much control. Next slide, please. So I know I haven't got much time. This is a busy slide, so I will probably run through very quickly. But I think I just want to cover that the essence of this few technology which I picked up for today is discussed here. So again, this Internet of Thing and blockchain is due to the cloud adoption. As we've seen, there is a huge flux in the number of device and the identities now organization need to worry about. Earlier, we were talking about in a traditional identity access management in like thousands of identity, but with the introduction of IoT, now we are talking about millions. That the whole interface is changing now because our applications and systems are also in the cloud. For any customer to connect to these application, is the interface is very minimal. Like they can just go online and they just connect directly to the system, and suddenly they are also connected to your organization. And any concern in this identity in any of this IoT device would ultimately become a problem for the organization. So this is another area that how efficiently we can manage the flux of Internet of Things devices, and how we can leverage some other technology, like say any digital ledger-based technology like blockchain, to solve some of these problems. So just because we're talking about millions and millions of heterogeneous devices here, so how we can manage the uniqueness and then use this to support your identity and access management concept and model. Next slide, please. And this again, this identity and access management and artificial intelligence is a very important for organization to enable some proactive decision making with the help of available technology like artificial intelligence and machine learning to support identity and access management use cases. So any variance in the behavior can be identified using the AI-based technology, um, and adjusting your identity and access management control just in time basis rather than on a typical fashion as we have been doing. And very quickly, I just want to give a very important fact here. Like say, based on a quick report from IBM, they said that it typically takes 314 days for any malicious attack from breach to containment, and that's like very long time. And the reason is that it is not humanly possible to respond to these incidents without having AI. So this is an area probably is going to support many of the use cases where we would be leveraging the other security event sources, get performing a correlation and then providing this analyze and contextualized identity information back to identity and access management system to make right decision and identify any anomalies. Next slide, please. And this is the last topic, which I think was very well covered in the previous, I would say, discussion. So I would not take much of the time, and I'm already pretty much, I think, near the time. So again, just very quickly, I think it is the one of the best thing probably has been done in recent past, covering the area which has been overlooked, and the consumer-based identity is something need a sort of a support, where in my personal experience we had a program where we had a lot more challenge uh, to implement certain sort of a controls required by regulation like PSD2 or GDPR. But if we would have had a system like uh, CM, then it could have been a lot easier, because especially for the customer, there have been a lot more silos when we go for, like, say, do we have a consolidated place where we can at least understand who are our customer, and then accordingly technology can be implemented as expected by regulators, like, say, PSD2, where the strong customer authentication needed to be implemented. And we didn't have this level of the consumer database or user base which we could have rely on. So adopting something like this and having this technology in hand would going to be a big support to deliver some of this initiative in future. The next slide, please. So next, please. So I would probably conclude here. It's just in a nutshell, is identity access management will continue to evolve in its scope or its scale. It's a lot of positive innovation happening around identity and access management. But the good thing is the technology and is also evolving, and identity and access management vendors are keeping very well with the introduction of this blockchain, bring your own identity, SIAM, and I hope this all would bring these things together to solve the big challenges, and will be able to provide better user and business experience here. Thanks.